presentation, because this is not written by most of the students. So you have to always write that washing of the patient is very important, because most of this organophosphorus compound poisoning might also enter through the skin. Okay, so that also needs to be written. Now, whenever you write the signs and symptoms, you have to write most important is fall in BP, bradycardia or tachycardia, and cardiac arrhythmias are also expected. Okay, and also whatever the respiratory failure can also occur. Muscular fasciculations are expected in these patients. Most important in treatment, you have to write termination of the exposure. This is the first thing you will write. Okay, so termination of exposure might occur by washing the hands or washing the skin of the patient, removing all the clothes. Okay, then gastric lavage according to the patient's need. And if the needed, then you have to also maintain the airway that is patent. Okay, most important, after that you have to write which are the specific antidotes that are used in this poisoning. So first you will write about atropine, what is the dosing regime of atropine. Then you will write about cholinesterase reactivators. In that you will specifically mention about pralidoxime. Also you have to write mechanism of action of pralidoxime, because they have asked the rationale, what is the rationale of use of this treatment in organophosphorus compound poisoning. Okay. Now, if the time permits, then you can also further elaborate that what are the harms and side effects of pralidoxime. If you write this, then you can score again good marks in this question. Next is the classify lipid lowering drugs with one example each. Write their mechanism of action. Those who have read these lipid lowering drugs, most of you directly write about classification. But I would suggest that before writing the classification, you just mention or draw a flow chart of how the lipid metabolism exactly occurs in the body. So once that is written, then you will elaborate specific things about what is VLDL, what is FDL, what is HDL, which is a good cholesterol, which is bad cholesterol. Once you have explained this, then you can classify the lipid lowering drugs. And in that, we have to write one example of each and write the mechanism of action. In the mechanism of action, when you write the statins, you can easily draw the flowchart for the mechanism of action of lipid lowering drugs. And other drugs you can also mention the in the form of flowchart, like bile acid sequestrants are there. In that, if you those who are refer Tripathi, they have given a very good chart about the lipid lowering drugs. In that, they have mentioned that first is the mechanism of action, then they have mentioned the effect of each drug on the lipid. So if you draw that chart, then you will easily score very good marks in this question. And you have to also write, most importantly, why the statins are to be given in the evening. Okay, the statins are always prescribed in the evening, so that also needs to be mentioned. If you mention that, then you will always have a upper hand. Next is enumerate the differences between hydrochlorothiazide and furosemide. Whenever these questions comes in front of the student, what does the student do is he takes a scale, draw two columns, and start writing the differences between hydrochlorothiazide and furosemide. You will score good marks in this, no problem, but you will not score very good marks. What you have to write is why this question is asked, because hydrochlorothiazide and furosemide both belong to the diuretics, and one clinician needs to differentiate for whom patient furosemide needs to be given and for whom patient hydrochlorothiazide needs to be given. So you will first explain what is diuretics, and if you can write the classification in short, where the hydrochlorothiazide is placed, which is a high saline diuretic, which is a medium saline diuretic, and then after that you can elaborate on the differences between hydrochlorothiazide and furosemide. Now, whenever you write the differences, I will specifically tell you to make three columns. In the first column, you will write the heading as the parameters of comparison, and then you will write hydrochlorothiazide and furosemide. So, in the parameters of comparison, you will write which is the parameters of comparison, like uh, mechanism of action, then which is the what is the side effect of this drug, so that you have to write over there. Then again, what is expected in this question is what is the duration of action, okay, and where it is used. Furosemide is used in hypertension. Is thiazide used? Then which hypokalemia, which drug causes hypokalemia, okay, which is a high saline one. So which is the site of action? Furosemide acts on the ascending loop of Henle, thiazide acts on the early distal tubule. So these differences are very important whenever you write the differences between hydrochlorothiazide and furosemide. Okay, next is classified drugs in glaucoma. Those are glaucoma is very well given in Tripathi, but you can also refer Satoskar. Satoskar is also very good book. And next question is enumerate shocks. This shock is very well given in Satoskar. Satoskar has a specifically separate chapter on shock and what are the types of shock, which are the drugs and their mechanism of action in different types of shock. Now, whenever you write the classified drugs in glaucoma, write the mechanism of action and adverse effects of any two groups. In this question, drawing the diagram is the most important thing. Okay, I would expect you to draw two diagrams over here. One is stating what is the mechanism of action, how the glaucoma occurs. First is that diagram, and second diagram, you will again draw the same diagram with specifically mentioning the site of action of the drugs. Okay, so this beautiful diagram is given in your textbook, and you have to write. If you draw these two diagrams, then you will easily score. Classify drugs in glaucoma. First, you have to write what is glaucoma. Okay, then you mention what are the hazards of glaucoma and why early detection of glaucoma is very important. Because the glaucoma, if it is detected early, then the consequences of glaucoma can be easily postponed or terminated. Okay, so classification of glaucoma drugs is given in your book. I'll not go into that detail, like beta adrenergic blockers, alpha adrenergic blocker, prostaglandin analogs, carbonic anhydrase inhibitors, miotic, so on and so forth. And write mechanism of action and adverse effects on any two groups. So any two groups, when it is asked, I will always go for one is carbonic anhydrase inhibitors and another is alpha adrenergic agonist, because you can write easily on this two groups. Then enumerate shock. It is very well given in Satoskar. You can easily refer what are the different types of shock, what is shock, and why it is important for the adrenergic drugs in shock. Also, you have to specifically mention about what is dobutamine, what is dopamine, and in which type of shock you will prefer this dobutamine, and in which type of shock you will prefer dopamine. Okay. Now we have moved on to the long answer question. So classify drugs in angina pectoris. Write the pharmacological basis for used in treatment of angina pectoris. Drugs used in angina pectoris. This is very easy scoring drug question for the student. First, you have to mention what is angina pectoris. If you are able to draw the diagram what is angina pectoris, then it will be very good. After that, you have to mention, and if you can draw a flow chart of how the angina pectoris occurs, then in that you can mention the drugs that are used in angina pectoris. Okay, so before classification, if you give a detail or glimpse about what is angina pectoris and what are the various drugs that are and on which stage the drug can act, like nitrates. So first you can always tell about nitrates. Okay, and nitrates itself is a short answer question. After nitrates, you will tell about the beta blockers and classified drugs in angina pectoris. The whoever checks the paper will also look for calcium channel blockers. So you have to also mention calcium channel blockers. Classification of calcium channel blockers is especially expected in angina pectoris. Then potassium channel openers and others. In that you have to also mention about nitrate resistance, okay, or tolerance, how the tolerance occurs and what is the solution for that tolerance. Okay. Next is the classified drugs used in treatment of peptic ulcer. Now in this peptic ulcer and right mechanism of proton pump inhibitors, this is a very typical question that is asked in the university. And if you can see those who have referred Tripathi, in Tripathi there is a very good diagram that is. So I would expect you to draw that diagram and do not write everything that is given in the diagram, but only what is expected is how does the proton pump inhibitor act on the parietal cell, which part does the proton pump inhibitor have the mechanism of action. So that is expected in this diagram. Okay. And whenever you draw the, whenever you write the classification, you have to write the full classification: reduction of gastric acid secretion. So mention that drugs, neutralization of gastric acids. Then you have to also mention about anti-H. pylori drugs. This is a very important part of the treatment of peptic ulcer, which most of the students miss. But 50% of the patients, 30 to 50% of the patients, they heal when after giving this anti-H. pylori drugs. So this is also expected in this question. Then mechanism action, everybody knows therapeutic uses and adverse. How the marks are divided is that if you write the drugs classification and you write about peptic ulcer, we have to also mention how the peptic ulcer, what is the physiology and what is the pathology that it undergoes in this peptic ulcer. If you write that, you are scoring 2 marks. Mechanism of action is a very important thing, and for if you draw the diagram over there, you can also score 2 marks. What are the uses of proton pump inhibitor and adverse effects? That carries one mark. So that is total how the 6 marks come into place. Last is define the term viability of the drug. I am sure most of the students must have written this, uh, written about viability of the drug in their semester exam. So I will not go into details of this, but what is important is definition of viability. Word to word writing is very important. What is viability? Because this question is not only important from theory point of view, but also from Viva point of view. So what is viability? Then discuss the various factors affecting viability. This is a typical Viva question as well as long answer question. And if you get that question, this question in your exam,
Excuse me,
then
sir.
yes.
Your voice was not audible clearly.
Okay, now it is audible.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So define the term viability. So viability refers to the rate and extent of absorption of a drug from a given dosage form as determined by its concentration time curve in the blood or its excretion in urine. So these words are expected uh, in your theory paper. Okay. And also there is one diagram that is given in your book that consists of the plasma concentration and time curve. So if you write that diagram in this question, then there are higher chances of scoring. Now discuss the various factors. Most of the students tell me, sir, factors कहाँ पे लिखा हुआ? ये हम लोग को किधर मिलता ही नहीं. But if you read about various textbooks, one of the textbook is by Sharma sir, another is Satoskar. In that also they have given factors affecting viability. In that you have to write various factors like physiochemical properties of the drug, routes of drug administration, pH and ionization. How does the food affect the viability? Presence of other drugs, how it is important. Whether antagonism also you can write. Then you can also write about the surface area of the drug. And if there are some diseases like hepatic disease, renal disease, how will you how the viability is affected in these diseases? That is also writing is very important. So this is about pharmacology paper 1. Okay, any doubts? So we'll move ahead.
Sir,
Okay.
we have one question in chat
Yeah, yeah.
box. How to go with compare and contrast questions?
Yeah, so one question over here is about hydrochlorothiazide and furosemide, the same one, right? Now compare and contrast is a question where where it is expected that which are the two. See, whenever the compare and contrast question is asked, it generally belongs to a single classification of that drug. Okay, so that is expected, like barbiturates and benzodiazepines. So where the differentiation between these two drugs is very narrow, so there the compare and contrast question is asked. So first you have to write where in which these drugs belongs to which system. Okay, then you have to write the uh, classification of where in classification where these two drugs fit into, and then you have to compare that with regards to the mechanism of action, with regards to the side effects, with regards to the t half, with regards to the dosage formulation. So that you have to, whenever you write anything difference or you write compare and contrast, always write 3 columns. In the first column you will always write which are the parameters of comparison and contrast, like mechanism of action, side effect. So that you have to write. The problem is most of the students, they just make 2 columns and write compare and contrast. So in that they are not able to score much more marks, even if you write 8 to 9 points. Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we move ahead.
Sir, what
Yeah, sir.
point should be written if a question is like, what's the rationale of this drug in this condition?
Yeah, so very good question, because I am coming to that rationale. Now rationale is a question which will be asked not only in theory but also in Viva and also in practical exam. So what is expected whenever a question about rationale crops up? So first you have to write about the disease and what is the physiology of that disease. What is the after how the physiology is altered and what is the pathology that comes into that picture. Now how you can see, whenever any drug is given, either it halts that pathology or it is used to cure that pathology. So that is expected from me. So like glaucoma. So what is the rationale of giving alpha adrenergic blockers in glaucoma, or what is the rationale of giving miotics in glaucoma? So first you have to write glaucoma, then you have to mention what are the how the glaucoma occurs. That's why I told you, whenever any question on glaucoma comes, most of the students just draw one diagram, and in that same diagram they write about the pathology and also they write about the various drugs. But I would suggest that first you draw a single diagram in which
Hello, sir.
you have to just mention that what is the uh, physiology and how it is altered, and in the next diagram you make the arrows and tell about that this pathology is altered by so and so much drug. For example, meiotic. So how is the meiotics act? So that is expected in the rationale. Okay. See, rationally means why you are using this particular drug in this type of disease. That is the question that is asked you. And whenever you write the rationale, you also mention about the side effects. That is very important. Also, you have to mention what is the duration of that drug and when that drug is to be given. For example, statins are to be given in the evening. So that is to be stressed and in your answer. Okay, any other question? Hello?
Yes, sir. One more question is that is
Yeah.
it necessary to explain the flow charts?
See, what happens is if you draw the flow chart, instead of, see, I will give you one example. If you read the newspaper, right? So in the newspaper, which is the first point that comes in front of you? You always go for the headlines, right? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Correct.
So this flowchart is just like the headlines of your answer. So if you write the flowchart properly, it might occur that no need to means you must have written the next answer also properly, or the remaining part of the answer also properly. So if you draw the flowchart properly, that gives an very good impression of the person. Okay, that person has understood that topic thoroughly. So whenever it is not possible to draw the diagrams, like bioability, it is not possible to draw the diagram, then you can always go for the flowchart. No problem. Okay. Any other question?
Yes, sir. Related to this question, after
Mhm.
describing flow chart, do we need to write it again in paragraph?
No need. See, that depends on your time. If you have time, you can always go for it. And another factor is pages also, because the pages are also limited now. So you have to divide your pages into such format that you have to first count the pages, and then you have to decide LAQ how many pages and SAQ how many pages. Generally LAQ go for 4 pages and SAQ will go for 2 pages, but that depends on the how many pages are there in your answer. Okay. So
Yes.
you can always go for extra, no problem, because writing extra will not hamper anything, but writing less will always surely hamper. Okay, any
Yes,
other
sir.
question?
How time should be
Someone could not.
allotted?
Yeah.
For your supervisor.
How time should be allotted for SAQs and LAQs?
Yes, I have told you I am coming to the time management at the last part. Or should I take it now? Okay, so I will just give a small. Okay, so this is about time management. Since most of you are anxious about time management, I will cover that first. No problem. So everybody can see the time given is 2 hours for your right for your theory exam, in which 30 minutes is for MCQs and total marks are 32. Right. So 32 marks. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Yes.
Yes,
So
sir. 30
yes.
marks.
So total 120 out of that 30 marks are already gone. So remaining are the 90 minutes for your 32 marks, right? Now, out of these, I would suggest that 5 to 10 minutes you keep at the last for some improvement or something is remaining where you are not able to remember, or you whether you are when you have to add something. So that for that at least keep 5 to 10 minutes. So total, if you minus that 10 minutes, then totals it comes to about 70 minutes. Okay. So 1 mark, if you calculate approximately 2.20 minutes, so 5 marks, that is SEQ. One SEQ will be almost for 10 to 11 minutes, and one LEQ will be almost for 11 to 13 minutes. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you
But
can give
sir,
10.
actually, we don't have the practice of writing because we wrote our terminals, internals online only. So
No problem.
how do
See,
we?
first whenever you enter the exam hall, it is not that the answer book is given and you have to start writing there itself. There is lot of time. First reach the exam hall at least 1 2 hours before the starting of the exam. What happens is when you reach 2 hours early, you get accustomed to that environment and your anxiety cools down. Okay. Also, whenever you enter the exam hall, whenever you enter, sit on your bench, you see that you are the first one or the in the first 10 students to sit, because once you know, then you will know where is the watch, because the wrist watches are also not allowed. Okay. Then once you settle over there, you count, and when the answer book is handed to you, first count the number of pages. Okay, so total you will be writing about 7 questions in that, right? So 5 will be for SEQs and 2 will be for LEQs. Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Yes, sir.
so
Understood.
yeah, so first divide upon that. Once you have divided, then you make the time management, because MCQ, even if it is for 30 minutes, nobody writes the MCQs for 30 minutes. At the max 20 minutes, you finish your MCQs, and there are still 10 minutes which are left. So in that you can count your number of pages, and you can easily make it out how much time is required for SCQ and how much time is required for LQ. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll move ahead. Okay. So whenever you go in the exam section, you keep with that, you write your own paper. Don't react to anybody else's reaction, because the time is very less and you have to write much more things. Now, most important thing is, before exam, don't read too many things. Just revise before exam. Don't try to read a thing which is newer to you. Okay, if you have time, you can read, but always read the same books that you have referred for last 1 year. Okay, so don't do such a mistake of reading what is not being read in last 1.5 year or 1 year. First give preference to the things, revise the things, and then if the time permits, you read the new chapter, or you expect that this can come in exam but I have not read. So this part you can keep some time and you can read about it, but do not try to read from every other book. And most important, please don't copy, do not commit any mistake in the exam, because this can hamper your future. Okay. Now, most important thing is the anxiety. How to overcome that anxiety? So you have to remember that the function of the heart is just to pump the blood. Okay, so don't be anxious and don't ask कि ये कब ये इसमें क्या लिखा उसमें क्या लिखा. Don't worry about anything. Most important thing is before going in the exam, keep some 1 to 2 hours before the exam there where you can classify, when you can remember or read the classifications, because remembering the classifications and writing them in the paper is the most important thing. Once you remember the classification and you are able to write the classification, then rest of the paper can be easy to you. Okay, so we'll move on to next. Hello.
Yes,
Yes, so
sir. We
we'll
can
move on
move
to
on.
next. Yes. So sorry, this I have not written properly. Yeah. So compare and contrast between sulfonamide, sulfonylureas and bigonides. So this, as this is the very easy question for you, and most of the students again commit the same mistake. They again take the scale and draw the two columns. But what I have told you is, first you write what is diabetes mellitus. Then you write what are the classification of drugs used in diabetes mellitus and where the sulfonylureas and bigonides are placed. Okay. Then you write down that how sulfonylureas and how bigonides differ, what is the mechanism of action, what is the side effects. Like hypoglycemia can be caused by sulfonylureas, but they are not caused by bigonides. That has to be mentioned particularly over here. Okay, where then you have to also write sulfonylureas, what it has a different derivative. Bigonides, they are from different derivatives. Okay, so this is very important question and you can easily score on this sulfonylureas and bigonides. Next is classification of drugs used in treatment of Parkinsonism. This is a very important question and very easy question, and give the rationale for the use of two drugs for different category in treatment of Parkinsonism. Whenever a such question comes, you have to always write about levodopa and carbidopa. Give maximum weightage to that two drugs, especially in combination. Okay. Now I have especially seen that one mistake that the students do in, especially in writing the classification of Parkinsonism, is that they write only half of the classification. So in the classification of Parkinsonism, if you can see, they have made into two different columns. Okay. So first you can see is the drugs that alters the or increases the dopamine levels. Okay. So drugs affecting the brain dopaminergic system, and that classification most of the student write. But the second classification, that is the drugs affecting brain cholinergic system, that should also be written. Most of the students just write that drugs affecting the brain dopaminergic system, but drug affecting the brain cholinergic system should also be written. And if it is possible to draw a diagram where you can draw the diagram where the balance between levodopa or the dopamine and acetylcholine, how it is maintained. So that is also very important. If you write that thing in this question, then it will be easy for you to score the marks. Okay. Now enumerate the drug used in amoebiasis, treatment of amoebiasis, and mention the therapeutic uses and adverse effects of metronidazole. Now this is a very straightforward question, but if you want to score more, what is amoebiasis, that should be written. And I would expect that what is intestinal amoebiasis and what is extraintestinal amoebiasis should be specifically written in this question, because your classification itself classifies the drugs according to the intestinal and extraintestinal classification. So this should be written. Another is what are the various uses of metronidazole, that is given in, but one thing is about the side effects or adverse effects of metronidazole. So in adverse effects of metronidazole, your favorite adverse effect should always be written, that is nausea and vomiting can occur. But most important thing is metallic taste and abdominal cramps as well as looseness of stool. This is specific about metronidazole, that is metallic taste. You yourself must have taken metronidazole and after 1 or 2 days you yourself complain about metallic taste. So this is the key point about adverse effects. Another, if you want to go into the right further, then thrombophlebitis of the injected vein. So in the whenever intravenously if metronidazole is given, then thrombophlebitis can also occur. So that is very important while you write about this amebias. Next is the 4 drugs from different categories used in treatment of bronchial asthma, giving the rationale for their use. Mention one side effect of it. Now, drugs used in bronchial asthma. This is the most important question, not only from theory point of view, but also from the practical point of view and also from Viva point of view. Because in Viva, drugs acting on bronchial asthma and especially the corticosteroids that are used in bronchial asthma needs to be specifically mentioned, and they can be asked in Viva because some of the drugs are also used in treatment of COVID. So they are means they are expected to be used in COVID, have some effect in COVID. So that this will surely come either in Viva or in this might question might come in your you should be prepared for this question, especially drugs used in treatment of bronchial asthma. Okay, next is define the term tocolytics. Enumerate 4 tocolytic agents acting by different mechanism and mention their therapeutic uses and what is adverse effects of it. So first you have to write what is tocolytics, and if you are able to draw the diagram for how the tocolytics act, then it will be very better. So defining the term of tocolytics will itself carry 1 mark. Enumerate 4 tocolytic agents will carry another 1 mark. Adverse therapeutic uses will carry 1 mark, and one adverse effect will carry 1 mark. So this is how the distribution will occur. Next is what is the drug treatment of multibacillary leprosy? Describe the treatment of lepra reaction. What is expected is that classification you will write, but leprosy, how from microbiology point of view, leprosy how it is a chronic disease, and the treatment is also not for a single day but for months together. That has to be mentioned over there, very important thing. And also you have to mention that after writing the classification that so and so drug is also used in other diseases like tuberculosis, so that also has to be mentioned, and why it is used in lepra, multivascular leprosy, that is also be mentioned. Now describe the treatment of lepra reaction is the one question that can also be asked on Viva, and you have to specifically mention what is lepra reaction type 1, what is lepra reaction type 2, and what is the difference between lepra reaction type 1 and type 2. Now classify anti-malarial agents. Now most of the students that ask me, sir ये एंटी मलेरियल एजेंट्स को कैसे ध्यान में रखना है, ये तो बहुत ही डिफिकल्ट क्लासिफिकेशन है, तो इसको कैसे ध्यान में रखना है। और ये क्वेश्चन जो है क्लासिफाई एंटी मलेरियल एजेंट्स आपने देखा रहेगा, ये बहुत ही अभी कॉमन हो गया बिकॉज मोस्ट ऑफ द एंटी मलेरियल्स आर वेयर एंड स्टिल बीइंग यूज्ड इन treatment of COVID-19. So this question might come or might be asked in your Viva. So if you just remember the anti-malarial drugs in the form of ABCD, okay, ABCD, that is A stands for 4 aminoquinolones, 8 aminoquinolones, and amino alcohols. So that's A. B stands for biguanettes. C stands for chinchona alkaloids. D stands for diaminopyridines. Okay, and then you also write about QTMNS, that is quinolone, then tetracyclines, Munich base, then naphthoquinolone and sulfonamide. So if you remember ABCD, then you can also remember the classification of antimalarial agents. So ABCD as well as QTMNS. So if you remember this mnemonic, you can easily write the classification of antimalarial agents. Chloroquine and hydroxychloroquine. These two patients you should know by heart what is the mechanism of action, what are the therapeutic uses of chloroquine, and what are the adverse effects of chloroquine. Also, you have to write what is it, where is chloroquine used other than treatment of malaria. So other than malaria where chloroquine is used, that is also you should mention about. Okay. Next is enumerate various types of contraceptive preparations, discuss the mechanism of action and adverse effects of combined oral contraceptive pills. In this, if you remember the physiology, okay, in the physiology, how they have given how the estrogen acts on the ovary, how the progesterone acts. So that diagram needs to be drawn in this long answer question. Because if you see this question is particularly very straightforward. What are the various types of contraceptive preparation? Discuss the mechanism of action and adverse effects of combined oral contraceptives. Now, another thing that you have to mention over here is what is the use of oral contraceptive pills not only as a contraceptive, but also in hormone replacement therapy, also as an emergency contraceptive. So these things also should be described in this question while writing the answer, because once you describe this, then the answer almost gets completed. Okay. Last is the classification of the hypnosedatives. Now, if you remember this classification, that is hypnosedatives, first you have to write what is, in which patients do you require this sedative drugs to be given. And whenever you classify these hypnosedatives, it basically consists of benzodiazepines and barbiturates. So if you can compare and contrast between benzodiazepine and barbiturates, even if it is not asked, then that will always be a scoring point of view. Okay. So this compare and contrast between benzodiazepines and barbiturates, if you write in this, then you will have also you will might be scoring 1 or 2 marks more. Okay. Also, you have to write about the newer non-benzodiazepine hypnotics and how they are superior to the benzodiazepines with regard to side effects. So that is also needs to be specified over here. Okay. So this is about classification of the hypnosedatives. So this is about pharmacology paper 2. Any questions regarding this? So we'll move ahead. Okay. Now, most
Yes.
important thing I have told you, last 5 to 10 minutes you have to keep extra. Okay, just don't hurry in that last 5 to 10 minutes. Forget that the last 5 to 10 minutes exist. Okay. If you write that in that way and you complete the paper in time, then you have extra time to think about the flow chart, where you can insert the diagram, where you can write about the flow chart, where you can insert the flow chart. If that question is not able to you're not able to insert the diagram, whether you'll be able to insert a flow chart. So these last 5 to 10 minutes you have to do the brainstorming on this issue, not just hurrying the answers. Okay. Now questions out of syllabus. Okay. Now there is one disclaimer I want to mention specifically. Okay. Now distribution of syllabus in the question paper is only meant to cover the entire syllabus in the stipulated frame. The question paper pattern is a mere guidelines. So questions can be asked from any paper syllabus into any question paper. Students cannot claim that the question is out of syllabus, as it is only for the placement sake that distribution has been made. So even if the you are writing paper 1, paper 2 question can crop up. Okay, so first don't worry about that. If you know the answer, then very good. If you don't know the answer, then you have to see whether that question can be kept as an option. Okay, so remember just that any it is not demarcation that paper 1 is this and paper 2 is this. Paper 2 question can also be asked in paper 1, and in paper 2 also paper 1 question can be asked. Okay, so we
Yes,
have
sir. We have
discussed about
few
paper 1.
doubts.
Yeah, I'll
Sir,
come to
sir,
that.
any chance
Um,
that
uh,
questions or COVID will come?
See, we cannot say anything. I have told you that anything can come, and they are specifically mentioned. So don't worry about that. Even if COVID comes here, I think so that everybody knows from WhatsApp and other universities that everybody knows about COVID much more. Okay, so don't worry about COVID or any other. But I will. I think so that instead of directly asking about question about COVID, they can ask about the drugs that are used in COVID, like chloroquine, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin. So this, as a short note, can also be asked in your exam. We don't know.
yes,
Sir,
sir.
and
Next question is
treatment of any disease,
Huh?
what should we write? That dosage form of drug and also pathophysiology of
Yeah.
that disease will.
Yes, this is one important thing that I want to cover is, for example, we have seen angina pectoris. So if a pharmacotherapy of angina pectoris comes, first you have to write what is angina pectoris. Then if you are able to, then you have to write the physiology of the angina. How does the angina occurs? Why the blood supply is less? Then various types of angina, stable angina, unstable. angina that you can ask, you can write. Then after that you can write which is the pathology. If the blood supply is less, how you can increase the blood supply. So then you can begin the classification. And then you can talk about nitrates, beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, potassium channel openers, and others. And then you can give how nitrates increase the blood flow. So then you can write about mechanism of action. Okay. So whenever any question related to the disease is asked, first write about the disease rather than directly starting about the classification. So first write about the disease, then try to write about the physiology and the pathology. That is uh, what is the problem that is occurring, and because of that problem, the disease is occurring. So can we correct that problem? Yes. So these are the drugs that can be used to correct the particular problem. So in which type of, if the problem is mild, like stable angina is there, which drugs can be used? If unstable angina is there, which drugs can be used? So, and what are the complications that also needs to be focused. Okay, any other question?
Yes, sir. One question is
Sir,
there.
should
If
dose of
we
drug
start
should be written?
writing,
Huh?
Dosage form of drug should be written in treatment, sir.
Dosage, if the time, see,
Sir,
first
dose. Sorry, sir.
dose
Dose
is,
like
see,
60 mg.
dose is, yes, dose is not expected, but there are some diseases where doses are expected, like anti-malarial chloroquine. So dose is expected. Okay. But if you ask about antiviral disease, yes, HIV, then no need of dose. But if question related to post prophylaxis, post exposure prophylaxis is asked, then in that dosage is expected. So it depends on the type of question that is asked. Okay. So generally related to dosages is not in your this syllabus, but in your junior that are there, in them they have particular question related to dosage calculations. Okay, any other question?
Sir, can we get any COVID related questions?
I have answered this, but see, nobody knows. How come I can tell? Nobody knows. So better you have to prepare for the worst, okay, and do your best. So you know what are the drugs that are used. I think so. COVID-19 is a disease which is known by everybody. What is the treatment is known by everybody, and what are the recent changes that is also known by everybody. So even if a question on COVID-19 comes, I think so you should not be worried about. You can easily write if you're reading the newspapers. And the drug related to the drugs are, you know about the drugs that are they use. They are not out of syllabus. Okay, any other question?
yes, sir. We have two questions in chat box. I will
Yeah.
read them. If we start with LAQ, does it affect any paper impression?
No problem. But what is the problem is that whenever you start with LAQ, you have to write the question number properly. Very, you have to check the question number and then you have to write, because if you go along with the flow of the question paper, then it is no problem. But when you write LAQ first, there are always chances that the question numbers can get flipped off. So you can always start with LAQ, no problem, but write the question number properly.
Yes, sir. One more question. Does underlining the important points have any impact on the examiner?
Instead of underlining, I will suggest to draw the flowchart, because underlining, some of the students use different colored pens, so that is not allowed in the exam. But if you can able to highlight the important points, if you have the time, then it is better.
Yeah. One more last question. Sir, can you explain compare and contrast thing, like you said, not to just write table? So what extra things have to be written?
Yeah, so compare and contrast, like we have seen sulfonylureas and biguanide. So I will just again tell you. So these two drugs belongs to that are used in particular of disease, that is diabetes mellitus. So first you just write about what is diabetes mellitus, and in class you can write about the classification of diabetes where the sulfonylureas are placed and biguanides in that metformin come, and then you can write the, you can draw the table, and then you can in the table first column you have to write the particulars. That is in which like first you would write about the mechanism action. So in that mechanism action, how the sulfonylureas differ from bigonides. Okay, so that is expected from you in compare and contrast. Then you have to write about the side effects, how the sulfonylureas differ from bigonides. Like sulfonylureas can cause hypoglycemia and it can be fatal, but bigonides, even if the dosage is increased, then also the chances of there is no chances of hypoglycemia. So this is expected from you whenever you write this compare and contrast.
Yes,
Okay, any
sir.
other?
We Yes, sir. One more question is there. Also, can we shuffle questions within LAQs or SAQs while writing answer questions, question numbers?
See, in LAQ there are, you have to write only 2 questions out of 3. So there is no question in shuffling. Whatever you write the answer, you have to write the answer number very important, very proper. Write the answer number properly, check once again. So in last 5 to 10 minutes you have to do these things. You have, if you have the time, you check the question number and the answer number proper, whether you have written the particular answer for that particular question.
Yes, we agree. One more last question. Hello, am I audible?
हाँ रुचिता.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. Maybe mistakenly हुआ होगा उनका race. Yeah. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us some insight about pharmacology paper. Now I request Rohit Bhaiya for Shanti Mantra.
I request everyone to join their hands and close your eyes for Shanti Mantra. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahe Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vedvishavahe. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Yes, now Rita, you can end the session. Thank you.